Now, it's been known for several years, if not decades, that most of the components in cars, electrical components at least, are made in China. And since the advent of the milk float, most of the milk float is made in China. Certainly most of the battery technology, a lot of the switches, most of the circuit boards and everything else is all made in China. And China never used to make cars. So it wasn't a problem because they weren't any competition. And the cars that they did make stayed in China because they were quite frankly crap. However, things are changing rapidly and people are reacting too late, and it could be just about to completely disrupt the entire world's car manufacturing, because BYD, which most people have heard of because they're sponsoring everything at the moment, they sponsored the whole of the Euros, they're sponsoring the Olympics, they're the new cinch of the world when it comes to sponsorship. And if there's two raindrops coming down a window, BYD will be there sponsoring it. And they've started making cars, electric ones, granted, so not really cars, just milk floats. And they're selling them in Britain. They're not selling very well. In fact, I've never seen one on the road, ever. And I do 75,000 miles a year. So you'd think that I might have passed one or two, or even driven one or two. But no, nothing. So sales are slow. So the Chinese, being the world's most dominant power now and the world's richest nation, have decided to up the ante a bit. So they produce three models. In Britain, the Dolphin, the Atto, and the Seal. The Dolphin is a Fiesta. The Atto is a Astra, Focus. No, the Atto is the Ford Cougar. The Atto is the SUV. It's the Nissan Qashqai. And then the Seal is the Mondeo. That's the easiest way to describe them. On my brief research of looking into them, they're hideous inside. Absolutely hideous. All weird Oriental colours that only the Oriental people seem to appreciate and find really funky, and the rest of the Western world goes, what the hell is that? But nevertheless, they've produced them. They've got good range compared to some of the crap we've got, and by all accounts, not bad cars. Still haven't driven one. I'm going to have to arrange a test drive so that I'm probably pose as a customer and go to the dealership and do a bit of secret filming, because that's the only way I'm going to get to drive one, I think. However, because China are China and they have the power, the EU, which we're not in case you miss Brexit, have already slapped I think it's a 20% tax on all Chinese cars being sold throughout the EU to make them less affordable than all the stuff that is being sold in the EU already by Stellantis Group and all the Germans, etc., who want to collar the market on it. And you could say that there's a slight Monopolies and Mergers Commission thing going on here, and probably you're controlling the market through taxation, and if it happened the other way round, there'd be hell up because it would be deemed illegal. But because we're doing it to the Chinese, it's fine. So the Chinese, being the Chinese, have thought, no, we ain't having that. We're going to do something about it. So they have. And they've started in the States. And they've started in one of the most aggressive ways I've ever seen. Now, over there, if you want to buy the Seal or the Atto, the two bigger ones, they work out dollars to pounds, roughly about the same. About 38 grand. So still cheap compared to a lot of stuff that you can get over here, and under the 40,000 expensive car tax. But where it gets interesting is we're calling it in this country, they're calling it the Dolphin, the Fiesta Corsa size thing. In America, and clearly they don't have the same hatred for birds that we do over in, particularly in Cornwall, where I'm from. They're calling it the Seagull, which is a flying rat with toxic shit coming out of its arse. So it's not really going to sell it as a product over here, but nevertheless, that's what they're calling it in the States. Over here, you want a dolphin, the UK version of the Seagull, it's £31,000. Not particularly cheap for a small milk float, but probably on a par with all the other small milk floats. Certainly on a par with the Peugeots, the Citroens, the Renaults, Nissans, the Zoes, the Leafs, all that lot. Probably a similar price point. But not in America, where they plan to launch the Seagull with a price on the road of $9,700. And I checked this several times just to make sure I got my facts right. $9,700. Now, at the current exchange rate, which is crap for us, that's 7,610 quid for a brand new milk float on the road. 7.5 grand for something that over here costs 31. So China clearly think that, I don't think the small car market is particularly popular in America. They like huge things and pickups and SUVs and everything anyway. So they've got to go ultra aggressive to get this over the line. So they've gone mega aggressive. But 7.5 grand for a brand new car, it doesn't matter how insulted you are in America by the fact that it's called the Seagull and the fact that it's a milk float. You're getting a brand new car for that, with warranty, etc, etc. And I've got to admit, if they were selling it for that price in this country, I still wouldn't be tempted. Now, you'd have to have a look, wouldn't you? Yeah, you'd have to have a look. For that money, for a brand new car, you'd have to have a look and weigh up the pros and the cons, because that is just opening up so many markets to everyone. I mean, imagine if you got one on lease, 7.5 grand. That's not going to cost you £100 a week on lease. It'd be one of those £99 a month deals. But of course, we don't get the privilege of that because we are Britain, and the Chinese probably still tally us up with the EU, and therefore we get the EU prices of 31,000. But Google it if you don't believe me. The BYD Seagull being launched in America for 7.5 grand. Now that could put the cat amongst the pigeons, or the Seagull amongst the Leafs. Is there another milk float named after animals? So not cat amongst the pigeon, Seagull amongst the Zoes. No, that don't work, does it? Seagull amongst the Teslas, not really a competition. No, I don't think there is. Shame. It's a shame really, because that would have been a lovely bit of poetry, wouldn't it? Now this will go one of two ways. America will either try and block this from happening and add a new taxation thing to it to make it too expensive to buy, or if it catches on, that could be the end of the American car industry as we know it, because suddenly everyone can afford a milk float at those prices, and then milk floats take off, and then China win anyway, because China make all the stuff for milk floats. So this is China almost declaring, yeah, we've had enough of this, we are coming for you, and we've got the money to do it. I doubt they're making a loss, which means they're producing that car dirt cheap. It's amazing what you can do with slave labour, isn't it? But they are producing that car for less than that, and they're still exporting it to America for that money. I mean, it's just mind-blowing. So where does it end? That's the question. And what happens in the meantime? And are they then going to try and lower prices in the rest of the Western world? Because if they do it in America, in theory, you can't have that much disparity. It's almost worth going to America, getting one, bringing it over here. You've saved yourself 20 grand, even by the time you put the VAT on the top and the import duty and everything else. I think it's 30%. So you'd have another, well, you'd probably have 3 grand on top of it. So you still have a brand new car for 10 grand. Granted, it'll be left-hand drive, and let's not forget, America's electrics works different to ours. But saying that, it can't be any different. It's still the same plug-in thing, isn't it? They're not any. I don't think they're any different in America. Teslas and everything, are they? It's just the same plug-in thing, or is it on a different voltage? All these questions need answering before I go across the pond and try and bring one of these things back. But there you have it. China are having a go, big time. 7.5 grand for a brand new milk float. It might be a pile of crap, but it's still half the price of a Dacia. And that is crap too. So it's going to get interesting. It's going to get very interesting, especially if the 2030 rule comes back in and people need to up their game. That could be the only way to meet the targets. Everyone goes out and buys BYDs for 7.5 grand. Future my arse. I mean, I don't know. I'm a bit worried about it now. I mean, it could be future, and it could be my arse, not future my arse, because it's a possibility. You can't rule it out. With everything else that's going on in the world, who knows what's going to happen next? But either way, the BYD Seagull could be a game changer for the entire car market of the world. Watch this space. Future my arse.